Start a new tradition. When it rains, I like to read, and I'm starting to train some of the animals, not train, but get them used to being out and being around. This is one of my tarantulas. And unfortunately, because I've been so busy with work, I haven't been able to take her out and just handle her as much as I'd like. So she's gonna sit here while I read, just so she can get used to the vibrations. She understands that just because things are moving around and are loud that she's okay. I'm not gonna eat her. We're gonna be opening a new book. I have no idea what this is. It's a little dark. The Kid's Guide to Exploring Nature. I'm gonna read to you, ready? What do baby ladybugs look like? What happens to acorns when a squirrel forgets where it buried them? How do bats catch so many mosquitoes? Where do mushrooms come from? Do you ever wonder about things like this? If so, you would make a terrific naturalist. A naturalist observes plants, animals, and other living things closely, asks questions, and tries to learn the answers. This book is full of information, adventures, and advice to help you become a naturalist. I'm excited. Does anyone do backyard adventuring? I'm just starting to. I love it. How to be a naturalist. A naturalist studies living things by observing them and then tries to discover how they relate to each other and their environment. In earlier times, before there were professional scientists, most of what was known about life on Earth was discovered by naturalists. I'm a little blown out. Let's see if we can fix that color. There we go. Today, being a naturalist takes many different forms. There's field biologists, environmental educators, and scientific illustrators are all modern naturalists. Yes, I'm a naturalist. You can be one too. The chapters in this book will get you started. So here are some tips. 1, this one's very important. Be quiet and still sometimes. Slow down and use your senses to listen, look, smell, and feel what's around you. One of my favorite things to do is take off my shoes and walk around in the mud. I don't know why, I just love it. Find a sit spot. I love doing this, especially earlier in the morning because you can see so many bugs and birds. Choose a place outside that you can return to over and over again and observe. Notice how it changes throughout the day and throughout the year. Do you hear the same birds in the morning and in the afternoon? What flowers are blooming in April and in June? This is really fun. So I have a sit spot, not even a 30-second walk from my apartment, and I see so many cool things. Woodpeckers, I saw an owl one time, so it's really cool to have a sit spot. And then plus, when you have a nature journal too, you can make all those notes and you can see how things change. Make comparisons. You are sure to see differences as you explore. How does the forest change as you hike higher up in the mountain? How is one tree's bark different from another's? How do bumblebees look different from humblebees? Bumblebees look different than honeybees or sweat bees. Ask questions. I ask a lot of questions. When you observe closely, you are sure to notice a lot of cool or unusual things. Birds like knife-shaped bills, flowers that look like bells, trees that smell like root beer, sassafras. That is such a cool. You can actually take a twig off of sassafras and brush your teeth with it. It's pretty neat. Why would that plant or animal have that trait? Does that shape, color, or smell help it in some way? Does it help it make or find food, reproduce, ward off predators? Keep a journal. Oh, we made our nature journals on yesterday, so make sure that we get those out. Buy a sturdy composition book or journal to record your observations. On the next page and throughout this book, you'll see examples of the kinds of details you can record in your journal. Use some of the scientific words you'll see in boldface. Those are going to be our vocabulary words. Let's see. What to keep in your journal. This is going to be important. Information about your surroundings. So here's their nature journal here. So I'm going to read you some of the things that they wrote to put in there. Record the date, time, location, and weather conditions. Is it sunny? Is it raining? Today it's raining, so we'll have to make some observations with the rain. Choose an interesting plant. Describe it. Not just its size, but also its color. Does it have any flowers? What does it look like? What does it smell like? Are there any insects near the plant? Do you hear or see any animals nearby? Pictures. Draw what you see or make rubbings of leaves, bark, and other natural objects. Take lots of photos. This is a great way to capture and preserve an image without disturbing the plants or animals you find. It's not good to pull a leaf off of a plant. If you find one on the ground, that's great. But other than that, it's great to take pictures or draw pictures. Specimens. Get an adult's permission to collect leaves, seed pods, and other plants. Weeds make awesome subjects. I think weeds are just flowers that haven't been discovered by florists yet. There are some really pretty flowers from weeds. Press them between the pages of newspaper under a heavy book for several weeks, and then tape or glue them to your journal and write about them. This is preserving them. These are some of the things that we can have. We have a journal, camera, Ziploc baggies, writing instruments. I have Miss Mallory pencils. We should give those away. Colored pencils, chopsticks for moving things around, magnifying glass, binoculars, a backpack, insect repellent, and a map if you're exploring or hiking. She's doing so good. You want to check on her? Let's check on our friend. She's staying nice and quiet. I'm not bugging her. I don't want to put her on my hand yet because that's going to stress her out even more. And what's really neat about these tarantulas is that when they get upset, they're not going to really bite at first. They don't want to waste their venom. And that's with all venomous animals, really. It takes so much energy to make that venom that they're not going to want to bite you and use it. They want to save it for their food. And so instead what they do is they'll flick their back hairs here with her legs. And those hairs are very irritating if they get in your eyes or your nose. And so that's how they ward off predators. She's doing such a good job. Okay, let's move on. Spring is a time of amazing change in nature. In March, the temperature sometimes still dips below freezing and the trees are bare. It looks and feels a lot like winter to us, but plants and animals know that it's time to prepare for a new cycle of growth. Head outside and you'll see flower and leaf buds swelling on bushes and trees. Birds and squirrels collecting materials to build nests, and even some insects starting to move about on sunny days. By May, the season is in full swing. Notice how trees have full leaves. Flowers are blooming on trees, shrubs, and other plants. Birds, insects, and other animals are busy gathering food, pairing off, and welcoming babies. And we'll go through the different animals, all these different things, so we'll go all through all these different things. This is a really neat book. I think we will really like this a lot. They show salamanders. Oh, look at being able to find salamanders at night. We might have to go with the biologist and go do that. They talk about animals in disguise. So how do moms protect their babies? Different types of nests. They even have one of my favorite bugs. I don't know if you can see this. This is a spittle bug. So they build nests out of their spit and bubbles. It's pretty cool. You've probably noticed that tree-lined blocks are beautiful. Trees' shady canopies keep the city cooler in the summer, and they also provide habitat for urban wildlife like songbirds and squirrels. Urban trees also provide a lot of benefits that might not be so obvious. They provide oxygen and trap pollutants in the air, such as ash, dust, and smoke. That helps us all breathe a little easier, so it's really important to have trees even in cities. Like all plants, trees release water through their leaves, which cools the air. This is called transpiration. I think we're going to need a vocab list, huh? A mature oak tree can transpire 40,000 gallons of water in a year. The roots of city trees can absorb a lot of rainwater during heavy storms. This prevents the sewer system from flooding and carrying pollutants and sewage to our rivers and oceans. Tough customers. Compared with forest trees, street trees must be able to endure a lot of stress. The soil in their little sidewalk tree beds tends to be nutrient poor and can get really compacted from people walking on it. Setting up a tree guard around the tree bed will help keep foot traffic away. Adding mulch to help return some nutrients and organic matter to the soil. Urban trees must also be able to tolerate drought, floods, pollution like the salt that some cities use to melt snow and ice. Wow. That's why it's also really important to leave leaves, because the leaves will break down and provide food for the trees. At home in the city, a lot of thought goes into planting trees. Most cities employ tree experts called arborists to select good candidates. One of their jobs is to choose the right tree for the right spot. They have a lot to consider. How tall and wide might the tree grow over its lifetime? Will it have enough space? Will it interfere with overhead utility lines? Will it get enough sunlight? How much water does it need? Once the proper tree is selected and planted, it's up to the neighborhood tree stewards to look after it. So if you're a neighborhood, you should be a neighborhood tree steward. How neat is this? So you can put a little guardrail and you can make a little sign so people know what kind of tree it is, and to ask dogs and people to stay off of its roots, because we really need our trees in our cities. During the first 5 to 10 years after being transplanted, street trees need to be cared for by a steward, someone who looks after them. If you have a young street tree in your neighborhood, here are some ways you can help it grow. Water it. This is one of the best things you can do for your tree, especially in the first 2 years before the root system can be spread out. Young trees need about 15 to 20 gallons of water a week. This is about half the volume of a bathtub. A homemade sign can educate your neighbors about what you're doing and why it's important. You can also remind people not to litter or chain their bikes to the trees. Include the tree species name on your sign and a fun fact about street trees. Maybe you'll inspire other people to be good stewards. This is going to be such a great book. Well, that was a great 15 minutes. Thank you guys for staying with me and doing my book reading session. And our little tarantula friend did a fantastic job at all. Didn't try to run away. So I'll keep bringing her out, maybe little by little. She'll walk on my hands. So we don't want to stress her out, right? So what I'm going to do is this is how I train a tarantula. Okay, so you guys can see. So I have my hand here. I'm not going to try to pick her up. But what I'm going to do is just gently scooch her. And if she flicks her hairs, see, she's letting me touch her. Oh, great. And we have these little, fantastic. She's not upset. So she just felt my hand and she didn't like the way it felt. So I'm just going to gently guide her. There we go. So anytime you're ever working with an animal, you want to be nice and gentle. See, she doesn't like the way my hand feels yet. It's something new. She hasn't really worked with it before. Just gonna gently move it over here so you guys can watch. And this is just how I get a tarantula used to me. I used to be really afraid of tarantulas. So just like we have to go slow and we're kind of afraid trying something new, that is what we're gonna do with her too. And they have hairs on their legs that basically tell them what's going on around them. They can feel vibrations. She's doing so good. So, great. She's getting used to it a little bit more. We're just gonna work maybe just a little bit more, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put her back. Okay, oops, I scared her. Okay, so now we're done. Obviously she got scared. I think my breath upset her a little bit. I'm not scared. I don't think she's gonna bite me, but I want it to be a good experience too for her. So we're gonna let her just kind of calm down a little bit. So spiders, obviously they're small and they don't know that we're afraid of them already, so they're gonna try to look as big as possible. So that's the end of our session. 20 minutes is a good amount of time that she's out. And so I'm gonna go ahead and put her back. Till next time, step outside and adventure.